My name was Amir. I was a Muezzin in the heart of a traditional Muslim neighborhood in Paris. Respected, yes, but deep down I felt a haunting emptiness. Every call to prayer echoed through my soul, yet my spirit lingered in a shadow. I fulfilled my duties, but did I truly know God? I stood amidst the serene routine of my faith, burdened by unvoiced questions. Then, one fateful day, everything changed. In the midst of the Adhan, as the warm Paris air wrapped around me, darkness overcame my vision. I collapsed, and in that moment, I stepped outside my earthly body into a realm where time and space dissolved. It was there, in the void, that I encountered a light so brilliant it pierced my very being. The figure that emerged was not who I expected. It was Jesus, calling my name. His presence enveloped me with peace, unlocking the chains of doubt that had gripped my heart. He revealed to me a hidden war, a dark battle that suffocated truth beneath layers of deception. As my spirit stirred with a chilling recognition, I understood that my devotion had been misled, pointed at a false narrative that obscured a far greater reality. Returning to my life after that encounter, the weight of my revelation plunged me into a chaotic storm. I was labeled a heretic, and the mistrust of my community warped into hostility. The fear of losing everything I had ever known loomed large. Doubts raged within, battling with the overwhelming truth I had witnessed. And yet, I could no longer remain silent, as if my very soul was called to uncover the truths that had been buried. This journey of discovery beckoned me to seek the heart of faith anew. Hidden in the shadows of my past beliefs, I began a search for truth that would lead me down unimaginable paths. This is where my story begins, but it is not just mine. It is a warning and an invitation to awaken. To those who may also feel the weight of doubt pressing upon their hearts. As we embark on this journey together, I invite you to comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I want to connect with you. And if you resonate with a heart-seeking truth, subscribe now to Truth from Beyond. Join us as we unearth revelations that can transform lives and awaken spirits. The journey is just beginning. As I stood on the minaret, preparing to perform the call to prayer, the weight of my responsibilities pressed heavily upon me. The traditional Muslim neighborhood in Paris was my home, and as the Muezzin, my voice served as the bridge between the community and God. I could see the rooftops of the city stretching out before me, a beautiful tapestry of history and faith, but beneath that beauty lay an unsettling silence. The expectations of my family and community loomed over me like a heavy shroud, shaping my identity and my every thought. Yet deep inside, I felt a growing discontent, a whisper of disillusionment that was hard to ignore. As I raised my hands to begin the Adhan, a sacred ritual I had performed countless times, I felt a surge of anxiety swell within me. The words flowed from my lips, but I struggled to connect with the meaning behind them. Each echo of my voice reverberated against the ancient stone, yet it felt like I was shouting into an abyss. What did these prayers truly mean? Was I really living the faith I preached? The burden of unanswered questions tightened around my heart, fueling my uncertainty. I could no longer shake the feeling that something deeper lay hidden beneath the surface of our traditions. And then it happened, a moment that would change everything. As the last notes of the call faded into the evening air, I collapsed. In an instant, I was thrust into a different reality, one shrouded in darkness and silence. I felt a strange sensation, as though I were floating, swallowed by a void where time and space no longer existed. It was here that I encountered Jesus, his presence radiant and compelling. He called my name softly, and in that moment, the darkness receded, replaced by an all-encompassing light. I felt enveloped by love, an unconditional grace that shattered the chains of doubt that had shackled my spirit. In the light of his revelation, truths began to unfold before me. I witnessed the hidden agendas that manipulate society, how the elite maintain control through deception and division. Jesus showed me the spiritual war at play, one that transcends our understanding of faith and politics. I saw how easily fear can be weaponized, how ideologies can blind us to our shared humanity. The powerful imagery of conflicts, sparked by misunderstanding, crystallized in my mind. This was not just a personal awakening, it was a clarion call to recognize the broader implications of spiritual neglect in a world rife with deception. When I returned to consciousness, the weight of the revelations was overwhelming. I knew I could no longer live a life confined by fear or tradition. The truths I had encountered demanded to be shared, even if it meant confronting backlash from my community. I understood that my experience was a divine calling to awaken others, those who felt lost or confined by the same traditions I had once accepted without question. The fire ignited within me pushed me to advocate for truth and love, bridging the gap between past beliefs and the path forward I now felt compelled to embrace. My journey toward awakening had only just begun, and I was ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead. As I stood at the top of the minaret, preparing to call the Adhan, I felt the familiar weight of my responsibilities settle on my shoulders. At 35, I was a respected Muezzin in our local community in Paris, a role that demanded both reverence and dedication. But beneath my outward devotion, an emotional emptiness began to gnaw at me. Each prayer I led felt like a performance, an obligation, rather than a heartfelt connection with God. The rhythm of the words echoed in my mind, yet they failed to resonate within my soul. This internal conflict stirred a longing for something deeper, something that transcended the confines of my religious duties. As I raised my hands and began the call to prayer, I could sense the expectation of the community below. I had devoted my life to this role, yet I felt increasingly disconnected from the very faith I sought to uphold. The act of calling others to worship carried an irony. While I invited them into prayer, I felt increasingly isolated from the spiritual essence that once brought me peace. Each verse I recited felt infused with a hollowness, triggering questions that had been lurking in my heart. Was this truly the path intended for me? Was there more to my relationship with the divine than what I had been taught? One evening, consumed by these doubts, I collapsed under the immense pressure of my own mind. In that moment, darkness enveloped me, and I slipped into a realm beyond conscious thought. It was in this void where I encountered Jesus. His presence illuminated the despair that surrounded me, filling the emptiness with warmth and compassion. He called my name, and suddenly, a flood of understanding washed over me. Each revelation came in waves, showing me the hidden agendas that manipulate beliefs, the elite using deception to sow discontent and division among us. I witnessed the spiritual war playing out in our lives, a battle for souls that kept humanity trapped in cycles of misunderstanding and fear. As I listened to Jesus, I began to grasp the magnitude of the truths he was revealing. I saw how the societal structures we accepted often kept us separate, and how the manipulation of information fostered distrust. I felt the urgency of this moment, the need to awaken not only myself but others who had also been caught in the web of false narratives. The image of families divided over beliefs, communities torn apart by fear, and wars fought over ideologies flooded my mind. I realized the deception ran deeper than I had ever imagined, and the awareness filled me with a fierce determination to share what I had learned. When I awoke from that experience, the world around me appeared different, brighter, more vivid. I knew I had been called to step away from my past and embrace a new identity, one rooted in the revelations I had received. Yet, as I faced the reality of my life back in the community, I grappled with fear and uncertainty. Would my family understand the changes I had undergone? Could I reconcile my newfound beliefs with the traditions I had respected for so long? Each prayer and conversation thereafter became an opportunity to share my experience, to encourage others to question the narratives that had kept them in chains. My heart raced with both hope and apprehension as I prepared to embark on this mission, aware that the path ahead was fraught with challenges, but determined to shine the light of truth wherever I could. During my prayers, I often found myself staring at the prayer rug, feeling a profound sense of disconnect that gnawed at my spirit. As the Muezzin in my community, I had performed the Adhan countless times, believing fervently in the words I recited, yet each call felt more like a performance than a genuine connection with the divine. I wondered where the joy and peace of my earlier faith had gone. It was as if an invisible wall separated me from my spiritual essence, leaving me questioning the very foundation of my beliefs. As these feelings deepened, strange dreams began to invade my nights. In these dreams, a gentle yet powerful voice stirred within me, urging me to reconsider everything I had accepted without question. I felt drawn toward an understanding that transcended the confines of my upbringing. The voice was comforting, powerful, and insistent, repeating a call to explore the deeper truths of life and faith. It stood in stark contrast to the rigid traditions I had always known. Each dream added layers to my internal struggle, fostering a growing sense of urgency as I sought answers amid the shadows. One evening, overwhelmed by the weight of my doubts, I collapsed during prayer. Instead of darkness, I found myself in the presence of Jesus, surrounded by brilliant light. His gaze was warm yet penetrating, and in that moment I felt as if my soul was laid bare before him. He called my name, and in that utterance, a flood of revelations cascaded over me. I was shown the hidden agendas of those in power, how the elite manipulate beliefs to maintain control over our hearts and minds. I witnessed the spiritual war being waged, not just in distant lands, but in our everyday lives, where fear and deception often overshadow the truth. In that divine encounter, I understood how deeply the elements of politics and spirituality intertwined. I saw visions of a divided world, marked by conflict and confusion. The manipulation fostered by powerful individuals clouded the minds of many, keeping them from grasping the love and unity that Jesus offers. The enormity of these insights filled me with a mix of dread and determination. I couldn't allow these truths to remain hidden any longer. I felt an urgent calling to share what I had seen, to lead others away from the shackles of deception into the light of awakening. When I returned from that experience, the weight of my awakening was both exhilarating and terrifying. I knew my spiritual journey could not be contained. I had to disclose the revelatory truths I had experienced, even if it meant risking the connections I held dear. The fear of alienating my family and community loomed large, but I recognized that preventing others from awakening was an even greater danger. As I prepared to step into this new role, I felt a conviction to advocate for those still trapped in the darkness, echoing the messages I had received from Jesus. I was ready to face the consequences, empowered by the wisdom that clarity brings, and determined to embark on this new mission no matter the risks involved. One ordinary day, as I climbed the steps to the minaret, I could feel the familiar routine wrapping around me like a comforting shawl. As the Muezzin for our community in Paris, calling the faithful to prayer was my honor and duty. Yet, with each recitation of the Adhan, the weight of my responsibilities grew heavier. That morning, a restless agitation sat like a stone in my stomach, casting a shadow over the sacred words I was about to speak. As I began to call the faithful, my voice rang strong and sure, but then, abruptly, everything shifted. A sharp pain coursed through my body, and before I could understand what was happening, darkness enveloped me. I felt as though I were floating outside of my own body, suspended between two worlds. The sounds of the city faded into silence, replaced by an eerie stillness. It was a void that felt cold yet oddly inviting, drawing me deeper into its embrace. In that expanse of darkness, a brilliant light emerged, piercing through the chaos. I was filled with an overwhelming sense of peace as I beheld the figure of Jesus radiating in that light. He looked at me with eyes full of love and compassion, as if he could see every struggle hidden within my heart. In that moment, the burdens of expectation and discontent faded away. Jesus called my name, and with his voice, a series of revelations flooded my consciousness. Truths about the spiritual war raging around us that I had never fully grasped. He revealed to me the hidden agendas crafted by the elite, manipulating beliefs and feeding us a steady diet of deception. I saw how the elite thrived on division, creating a world where fear kept us from finding unity in our shared humanity. The imagery was stark and poignant. I witnessed the conflicts fueled by misunderstanding and hatred, how they leave communities fractured and lost. I felt the urgency of his words resonate deeply within me, as if I were meant to carry this message back to the world. A call to awaken from the slumber of ignorance, to shake off the chains of oppression. As the light began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled back to consciousness, I understood one undeniable truth. The journey of awakening was not just my own, but a collective battle against the false narratives that enshroud us. I knew that I could no longer preach the rigidity of tradition when the essence of my faith was transformed. When I awoke in the hospital, surrounded by the familiar chaos of life, I resolved to embrace this new path. The spiritual awakening I experienced had ignited a fire within me that demanded expression. My mission was clear. I was called to share the truths I had uncovered, even if it meant challenging the very foundations of the beliefs I had held dear, ready to face whatever obstacles might threaten to silence my voice. After returning to my life as a Muezzin, everything felt different. The moment I awoke from that transcendent experience with Jesus, I knew I could not simply slide back into the familiar rhythms of my daily routine. The revelations I had encountered felt like a fire burning within me, igniting a desire to share what I had learned. However, as I began to express my newfound beliefs to my friends and family, I was met with skepticism and hostility. Instead of acceptance, I faced accusations of heresy and radicalism. The very people I had looked to for guidance now turned their backs, casting me into a world of uncertainty and fear. Each conversation felt like walking through a minefield, where I had to tread carefully, risking everything I had known for the sake of the truth I had come to embrace. Friends I had trusted suddenly became distant, their eyes filled with a mix of confusion and anger. The disappointment was palpable, wrapping around me like a heavy veil. The weight of their judgment pressed heavily on my chest as I tried to articulate the profound changes within me. "How could you abandon our faith?" they would ask, their voices tinged with betrayal. I was torn between the love I felt for them and the urgency to share the truth that had set my spirit free. The accusations of madness intensified as I explained the hidden agendas I had come to recognize. The manipulation of the elite aimed at keeping people divided through deception and fear. I spoke passionately about the spiritual war that was waged not just in distant lands, but also within people's hearts, about how the narratives we accepted could blind us from the truth. But with each revelation I shared, the chasm between us widened, pulling away the warm connections I once cherished. The fear of expulsion from my home felt imminent, and each day I grappled with the guilt of potentially losing my family to this awakening I had experienced. In the quiet hours of the night, my soul wrestled with these conflicting emotions. The guilt weighed heavily, entwining with my newfound conviction and leaving me gasping for clarity. I prayed fervently, asking Jesus for strength, for the courage to continue amid the turmoil. The warmth of his presence lingered in my heart, reminding me that this journey was not just for myself, but a calling to awaken others. Yet, the isolation felt increasingly suffocating, as if the walls were closing in. I often questioned whether the truth was worth the sacrifice of familial bonds, considering what my life might look like if I continued down this path. Despite these fears, I couldn't shake a growing sense of responsibility. I understood that awakening to the truth meant fighting against the tide of deception that so many of us were swimming in unknowingly. I was determined to find ways to reach out to others who might be feeling similarly lost, caught in the crossfire of tradition and spirituality. My experiences had made me acutely aware of the manipulation we often accept, and I felt a burning desire to help others see through the veils of lies. This battle was not just mine. It was a communal struggle for the soul of our beliefs, for the essence of what it meant to be human amid the chaos around us. Each step I took was fraught with uncertainty, yet I felt the light of truth guiding me toward a future that promised to be transformative for many. In secrecy, I embarked on a quest for truth about Jesus, a journey that felt both liberating and terrifying. Late at night, when the world around me was quiet, I devoured online videos and articles, each one unraveling a new layer of understanding. For the first time, I encountered perspectives that challenged my long-held beliefs and opened my eyes to a reality I had never considered. The stories of individuals who had faced similar spiritual wars resonated deeply within me. I felt an awakening stirring, a flicker of hope that began to illuminate the shadows of doubt that had clouded my faith for so long. Reading the Bible became a ritual of discovery, each passage filling me with peace and a sense of purpose. It was as if the words were speaking directly to my heart, inviting me to explore the depths of love and grace that Jesus offers. Every revelation breathed life into my spirit, reminding me of the compassion I once held dear yet had lost sight of in a rigid adherence to tradition. In those moments, I realized that my spiritual journey wasn't about abandoning my heritage, but embracing a fuller understanding of faith that transcended boundaries. Yet, with each moment of clarity came an undercurrent of danger, a stark reminder that I was treading on sacred ground, one that many would view as a betrayal. It wasn't long before I discovered a support group of individuals who had converted from Islam to Christianity. People who understood the complexities of faith and identity that I was grappling with. They welcomed me with open arms, their stories echoing my own doubts and fears. We gathered in small circles to discuss our experiences, share our journeys, and find solace in the fact that we were not alone. The atmosphere was charged with hope, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of belonging. The revelation that I had encountered seemed to unify us all, creating a bond that transcended our individual struggles. But as my connection with this group deepened, I couldn't shake the weight of potential repercussions. The journey I was on put me at odds with my family and community, many of whom I loved dearly. I knew that openly sharing my beliefs could lead to unspeakable consequences. Fear of expulsion from my home, a life devoid of the relationships that had shaped my existence. Each prayer I offered was filled with a longing for reconciliation, a desire for understanding from those who had nurtured my faith. The fear of losing my loved ones haunted my thoughts, creating a tension that grew more palpable with every decision I made. Despite the risks, I felt an unrelenting desire to spread the truth that had transformed my life. As I shared my testimony and the revelations I had encountered, I aimed to awaken others to the spiritual war that surrounded us. I discussed the hidden agendas that kept our communities divided, and the urgency of our mission became clear. I spoke passionately about the need to challenge the narratives crafted by the elite, how they manipulate our fears to dictate our reality. Each time I stood before a gathering, I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down, urging me to be a voice of truth and light amid the darkness. The path forward remained uncertain, but I knew deep within that my awakening was only the beginning, a catalyst for change I was destined to pursue. As I stood at the minaret, preparing to call the faithful to prayer, a profound realization washed over me. My experience, marked by an encounter with Jesus, held a purpose far greater than myself. In the stillness of the moment, while gazing at the streets of Paris below, I felt an undeniable compulsion to share the truth I had received. The revelations I experienced during my near-death episode illuminated the hidden agendas that operate beneath the surface of our lives. This was no longer just about my awakening. It was about warning others of the spiritual war occurring around us, a battle that transcends the confines of our individual faiths. Yet with this realization came a torrent of fear. Breaking my silence, especially in a community that valued tradition and conformity, could lead to severe repercussions. I knew the risks I faced: ostracization, rejection, and the loss of my family support. But the fire inside me burned too brightly to be extinguished. Each time I reflected on Jesus' message, I felt propelled toward action. I had witnessed the truth, and I could no longer stand by while deception shrouded the hearts of those I loved. The urgency of my mission became clearer than ever as I realized how many people were trapped in cycles of misunderstanding and fear, guided by narratives crafted by the elite to serve their interests. As I began to speak out, I sought the courage to share my testimony with friends and family, with the hope that they might also be awakened to the truth I had found. I opened my heart, recounting the spiritual awakening that transformed my life. I described the hidden agendas of power brokers who manipulate society, perpetuating fear and division to maintain control. The conversations were fraught with tension. I encountered skepticism and outright hostility. The community I had cherished suddenly felt like a battleground. The very people I had looked up to turning away from me, questioning my integrity and loyalty. Despite the backlash, I found solace in connecting with others who had faced similar struggles. I discovered small groups that offered support and understanding, where we could bond over our shared experiences. Through these relationships, I realized I was not alone in this fight. We began to uplift one another, discussing the nature of faith and the manipulation we recognized around us. Each gathering reinforced my commitment to the truth and the importance of collective awakening. Together we explored how the spiritual war was not just an internal struggle, but one that demanded our collective resolve and courage to confront the deception afflicting humanity. Every time I shared my testimony, I could feel the spirit of awakening ripple through the room. There was urgency in our discussions, a recognition that the fight we were engaged in extended far beyond our individual lives. We were confronting the very foundations of society, recognizing that the manipulation of information and the creation of division were used as tools to control the masses. My heart pounded with the realization that this was about more than my personal journey. It was a movement aimed at reclaiming our truth. The tension between fear and faith fueled my determination, compelling me to push forward and share the messages that could liberate not just myself, but countless others still caught in the shadows of deception. Embracing courage became my lifeline as I shed my old life, stepping into a new world under an alias. This transformation symbolized my rebirth, a declaration that I was no longer just a Muezzin burdened by expectations. I relocated to a city bustling with opportunities, yet it felt like a leap into the unknown. Each day was a mixture of fear and hope as I navigated my new reality, all while preparing to share the truth I had discovered after my profound encounter with Jesus. The revelations I received during my near-death experience drove me to evangelize, to reach out to others wrestling with the same doubts I once felt. In this new city, I sought connection with people who were also searching for meaning. I began sharing my experiences in small gatherings, offering my testimony as a beacon of hope. It was an act of vulnerability, exposing myself to judgment, but I felt compelled to inspire others who had felt the grip of spiritual emptiness. As I spoke, I saw flickers of recognition in their eyes, reflections of the struggles I once faced. We were all engaged in this spiritual war, fighting against the hidden agendas that sought to keep us divided, overcome by the deception that permeated our society. I tirelessly discussed the truth of my revelations, emphasizing the urgent need for awakening. Each interaction reinforced how vital it was to challenge the narratives that uphold the elite's control over our beliefs. I shared how technology could be used as a tool for manipulation, breeding division, and conflict among communities. It was alarming to witness how easily misinformation spread, and I wanted others to see through the lies that kept them shackled in ignorance. The more I spoke, the more I felt the urgency pressing upon me. This mission was not about me alone, but a collective effort to reclaim our truth and unity. Gradually, I forged bonds with those who desired freedom from their own chains. Together, we formed a network of support, each of us determined to uplift one another on this journey toward enlightenment. It was a sanctuary for souls seeking solace, a place where we could freely explore our beliefs and discuss the spiritual battles we faced daily. In the warmth of these connections, I found strength and reaffirmation of my purpose. I had once been isolated by fear, but now I was surrounded by fellow warriors, willing to confront the spiritual war raging around us. Yet, even amidst this newfound community, the shadows of doubt continued to lurk. Would my family ever understand this transformation? The thought of losing their support loomed in the background of my mind like a dark cloud. I wrestled with the fear of rejection, but I also felt the unwavering pull of my mission. As I continued to share the truth, I knew the importance of keeping faith alive in both my heart and theirs. Every conversation infused me with energy, pushing me to recognize that awakening others was a critical step, one that could lead to a future filled with hope and connection. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I was ready to embrace it, knowing that the truth I sought to spread carried the power to change lives, including my own. Years have passed since my life-altering encounter with Jesus, and now I thrive as an evangelist in a community that values transformation. The once empty echoes of my prayers have been replaced by the vibrant voices of those who gather to hear my testimony. Each story I share breathes hope into the hearts of individuals wrestling with their own doubts and fears. They seek to break free from the hidden agendas that have shaped their understanding of faith, and I stand before them, a living testament to the power of awakening. Despite the joy I find in this purpose, there remains a deep ache within me, a longing for reconciliation with my family, who have turned away from me since my conversion. I often reflect on the pain of alienation. The faces of my loved ones flash before my eyes, reminding me of the shared history we once cherished. I was once one of them, a devoted son and brother steeped in the traditions of my upbringing. But as I learned more about the spiritual war raging around us, I recognized how the elite manipulate beliefs to sow division and spread deception. This understanding ignited a fire within me, compelling me to step into my calling to share the truth even as the threat of rejection loomed large. I firmly believe that the truth has the power to mend hearts. It's what keeps me hopeful for a future that could one day reunite us. In my new role, I've encountered countless individuals, lost souls searching for meaning amid the chaos of modern life. Each person brings their own struggles, often rooted in the same oppressive traditions I sought to escape. I see the shadows of fear across their faces, whispers of doubt planted by the very leaders and institutions meant to guide them. It's urgent to share the revelations I have received. Each gathering feels like a sacred space for healing and empowerment. Together we confront the truths that challenge the narratives we've been fed, breaking down the walls that once divided us. My heart races when I think about the potential for transformation that lies within our growing community. As we delve into discussions, the urgency of our mission becomes abundantly clear. The manipulation that the elite enforce creates barriers that keep us from uniting under a common truth. I relate my encounter with Jesus, sharing how the love I felt in his presence shattered the illusions I believed for so long. I urge my community to awaken to the reality of our spiritual warfare, to recognize how the enemy thrives on our divisions and misunderstandings. Their reactions inspire me, encouraging me to dig deeper into the intricacies of spirituality, society, and humanity, revealing the connections between our personal struggles and the larger fight for truth. Still, amidst this passionate pursuit, the gnawing fear of losing my family never fully subsides. The thought of facing them again fills me with trepidation and longing. Would they ever understand my transformation? Could I convey to them the love and light that guided my journey? Each prayer holds a mixture of hope and anxiety, and I remind myself that awakening takes time. My faith remains unwavering, rooted in the belief that the truth has the power to soften even the hardest of hearts. I press on, undeterred by the uncertainty of my family's acceptance, knowing that my mission is not only about my awakening, but about inviting others into the light of truth that Jesus has shown me. hoping that one day this journey will bring us all back together. As I stood atop the minaret, preparing to call the faithful to prayer, I felt a mix of reverence and unease wash over me. The Adhan, a call I had delivered countless times, seemed to resonate differently that day. As the Muezzin for my community in Paris, I carried the weight of obligation and expectation. Each word echoed through the neighborhood, a melody steeped in tradition, yet an unsettling emptiness crept into my heart. In those moments, I sensed a disconnect that had started to gnaw at me, a feeling that my spiritual life had become routine, devoid of the deep connection I yearned for. Then came the collapse. One moment I was chanting in beautiful harmony, and the next, darkness enveloped me. It was disconcerting but oddly serene, as if I had slipped away from reality. I hovered between worlds, suspended in silence, when suddenly, a brilliant light pierced through the void. In that light stood Jesus, radiant and filled with love. As he called my name, I felt the weight of my burdens lift away, replaced by a warmth that enveloped my very soul. His presence filled me with peace, yet a profound urgency coursed through me. In that sacred moment, revelations began to unfold. Through Jesus, I was shown the hidden agendas of those who manipulate faith for power. I witnessed the elite weaving webs of deception that kept people entrenched in division and fear. The spiritual war one had felt in the back of my mind suddenly became tangible. It was a battle for the hearts and minds of humanity, fought not with swords but with ideas, sowing discord where there should be unity. I saw how easily we could be misled, how the narratives spun by those in power often led us away from the truth. As I returned to consciousness, the mingling emotions of fear and purpose surged within me. I realized this experience was not solely about my awakening. It was a calling to be a messenger of truth. I needed to share what I had learned, to help others see through the deceptions that kept them spiritually bound. Yet, as I pondered this mission, anxiety gripped me. Could I betray my community and family by championing a message so radically different from what they knew? The potential for rejection loomed large, yet the fire ignited by my encounter with Jesus would not be extinguished. Determined to forge ahead, I sought out ways to connect with like-minded souls. This quest for truth gathered momentum as I began to speak openly about the insights I'd gained. Each interaction became a chance to bridge the gaps formed by fear and misunderstanding, to encourage others to awaken from the slumber of ignorance. I felt the urgency of our shared struggle. A collective awakening beckoned, and I was no longer confined by the chains of my past. The call to serve as a beacon of truth grew louder and clearer, guiding me into a future fraught with both peril and potential. The spiritual war was not an abstract concept. It was now a reality I was determined to confront, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Now that you've journeyed with me through my transformative experience, I want to leave you with a thought. Have you ever faced a moment that shattered your understanding of reality? A revelation that made you question everything you've known? Because I have. And it has changed my life forever. In that moment of darkness when I encountered Jesus, I was shown that we are all part of something far greater. A spiritual war hidden beneath the surface of our everyday lives. This battle is not just personal, it's a fight for truth amidst a world of deception that seeks to keep us divided. It's urgent and it's real. Each of us has a role to play and a truth to discover. So I ask you, are you willing to embrace that truth? Have you felt a stir in your spirit that compels you to seek a deeper understanding? Share your reflections in the comments below. I want to connect with you and hear your stories. Your voice matters, and together we can awaken to the realities that bind us in shared struggles. And if this message resonates with you, I urge you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. Your support is essential as we uncover more of these powerful truths together. What's coming next will challenge and inspire you in ways you cannot yet imagine. In our next video, I'll introduce a testimony from someone touched by grace in a way that defies explanation, beckoning you further into this journey of faith. My name is Amir, and it's been a privilege to share my story with you. Remember, the path to understanding is not meant to be walked alone. Embrace the light of truth and let it guide your way.